In a futuristic world where alien empires reign and human workers are overlooked, one janitor finds himself in a position no one would have ever expected. After a long shift cleaning the royal quarters, he ends up falling asleep beside the sick daughter of the alien queen herself. What happens next will shake the very foundation of the galaxy, as ancient truths begin to resurface and alliances are forged in the most unexpected ways. Before we dive into this incredible journey, let us know where you're watching from. If stories like this get your heart racing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode will leave you on the edge of your seat. The sterile hum of the ship's engines filled the quiet chamber as the janitor, Nathan Outman, wiped his brow, weary from another endless day of cleaning the alien queen's private quarters. His uniform, marked with the insignia of the intergalactic maintenance crew, was stained with sweat and cleaning solutions. He had long grown accustomed to the strange looks he received from the royal staff, who often dismissed him as little more than a shadow in the corner of their pristine, high-tech world. To them, he was invisible until that night. Nathan had no idea how he ended up beside the queen's daughter's bed, his head resting gently on a plush pillow, the soft glow of alien lights casting a dim hue across the room. The girl, no older than 7, lay there with feverish eyes and a fragile breath, her green skin tinged with the pale hue of sickness. His instincts had kicked in when he heard her soft cries echoing through the chamber, and, unable to ignore her distress, he had sat at her bedside, offering a comforting presence that she seemed to trust. As Nathan drifted off to sleep, he didn't realize that the queen was about to return unexpectedly. When her towering presence entered the room, the air seemed to freeze. She stood there for a moment, her eyes sweeping across the scene, her daughter, fragile and vulnerable, resting beside a human janitor. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a blade, but it was the queen's silent gaze that held him frozen. The silence in the room was deafening. The queen's eyes, glowing with an unnatural violet hue, fixed on Nathan, her regal figure framed by the harsh, futuristic lighting of the chamber. Her cold, alien beauty was matched only by her intensity, and for a moment, Nathan felt as though he were caught in the eye of a storm. He dared not move, his body frozen, unsure of how to react. Then, without a word, the queen approached. Her armor, a shimmering cascade of shifting colors, seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Nathan could hear the soft click of her high heels against the polished floors, each step an echo in the vast emptiness. She knelt down beside her daughter, gently brushing the girl's hair away from her forehead with a tenderness that was at odds with the coldness of her exterior. The girl stirred slightly, a faint smile forming on her lips as if sensing her mother's presence. The queen's expression softened just for a fraction of a moment, but it was enough for Nathan to catch a glimpse of the emotion she kept hidden behind her regal facade. "You." The queen's voice was low, filled with an unexpected edge of authority, yet there was something else beneath it, curiosity perhaps, or even something warmer. "How did you come to be here?" Nathan swallowed hard, struggling to find his voice. I heard her crying," he managed to say, his voice sounding small in comparison to the queen's towering presence. "I didn't want her to be alone." The queen's gaze never wavered from him, though something like a flicker of surprise crossed her face. She had expected many things from the humans she ruled, but this simple act of compassion was not one of them. She regarded him for a long moment before rising to her full height, her presence overwhelming. "You may stay," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument, "but only until she is well." Nathan nodded, his heart pounding. He had no idea what this unexpected turn of events meant, but he knew one thing for sure: his life, as a humble janitor, would never be the same again. Days passed, and Nathan found himself drawn deeper into the queen's inner circle, not as a janitor, but as a silent observer. His presence, once a mere inconvenience to the royal staff, was now tolerated, even expected. The queen's daughter, Alira, had grown stronger, her fever breaking within hours of Nathan's arrival. The moment her health stabilized, however, things began to shift. Nathan was no longer invisible. He was now part of a quiet, unspoken understanding between him and the queen. It started with small gestures. Alira would hold his hand when she could barely sit up, and the Queen, despite her cold demeanor, began to subtly acknowledge his existence. In the rare moments when Nathan was allowed into the Queen's private chambers, he saw a side of her few could imagine. She was not just a ruler but a mother, fiercely protective of her daughter and burdened by responsibilities far greater than Nathan could ever comprehend. One evening, as Nathan was finishing his duties, he overheard a conversation that would forever change his understanding of the galaxy he had once thought he knew. The Queen was speaking to an advisor, her voice low but unmistakable in the quiet of the room. "The humans cannot be trusted," she said, her words dripping with disdain. "They are nothing more than remnants of a dying species." "But that boy," her voice faltered, and for a brief moment, Nathan thought he heard something akin to regret. "He has a purpose I do not yet understand, and I will not let him be discarded like the rest." Nathan froze, his heart hammering in his chest. The Queen's words hit him like a shockwave. He had always been nothing more than a lowly worker, a background figure in this galaxy of towering powers and politics. But now, he realized, he was no longer just a janitor. He was part of something much larger, something dangerous. Before he could process the full weight of what he had heard, the Queen turned and caught his gaze, her violet eyes narrowing. "You've heard enough," she said, her voice cold and commanding. "Leave now. We will speak again soon." Nathan, still reeling from the revelation, did as he was told, but not before a single thought gnawed at him. What was his true purpose, and why had the Queen brought him here? As he walked out of the chamber, the weight of the Queen's unspoken words pressed down on him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something far more important than a simple illness had brought him into the Queen's life. Something was stirring in the shadows, and Nathan was about to find himself at the center of it. The following days were a blur of palace corridors, dimly lit rooms, and awkward silences. Nathan continued his duties, but now there was a growing unease. The Queen's quiet scrutiny never wavered, and though she had given him a measure of trust, it was clear that her intentions were still shrouded in mystery. He couldn't shake the feeling that some deeper purpose was unfolding around him, and he was merely a pawn caught in its web. It wasn't until late one evening that he found himself face to face with the Queen once again. This time, however, she wasn't alone. A circle of her advisors stood nearby, their eyes flickering with curiosity and suspicion. Alira, now fully recovered, sat at her mother's side, looking more alert than she had in days. Nathan was cleaning the floor when the Queen's voice rang out, cutting through the hum of the palace. "Janitor," she called, her tone commanding but not unkind. "Come here." Nathan froze for a moment, unsure of what she wanted. But then, his instincts kicked in, and he made his way toward her. "Yes, Your Majesty?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The Queen looked at him with an unreadable expression before gesturing to a small, intricate device resting on the table before her. It was an ancient-looking artifact, its surface etched with symbols Nathan didn't recognize. "This is the Alarian key," the Queen said, her voice quiet but firm. "It holds the secrets to an ancient pact that could change the course of our entire galaxy. But it is more than just a key. It is a test." Nathan glanced at the advisors, who exchanged knowing looks, but he didn't speak. The tension in the room was palpable, and for a moment he wished he could simply disappear into the shadows again. "You will be the one to solve it," the Queen continued, her eyes fixed on him. "I've seen something in you, something I cannot yet fully explain. You will decipher the key's meaning, or you will prove your worth. The galaxy is watching, Janitor." Nathan felt a lump form in his throat. He had spent his life cleaning floors and scrubbing away the remnants of others. But now, in a single moment, his entire existence had been thrown into question. Could he really be the one to unlock the secrets of an ancient alien artifact? And what would happen if he failed? He glanced at Alira, who was watching him intently. Her eyes held a flicker of something, perhaps hope, or maybe fear. It was hard to tell. "Do not fail me, Janitor," the Queen said softly, her voice carrying a weight he could no longer ignore. With those words, Nathan felt the ground beneath him shift. This wasn't just about cleaning anymore. It was about something far greater, something that would shape the fate of the galaxy. Nathan stood in the quiet chamber, the weight of the Queen's words pressing heavily on his chest. The Ilarian key lay before him, its intricate patterns seemingly mocking his ignorance. He had spent years scrubbing floors and fixing things, but now he was tasked with something he never imagined, unraveling an alien puzzle that could change the fate of entire worlds. The challenge before him felt impossible. He ran his fingers over the smooth surface of the artifact, tracing the strange symbols that adorned it. Each one seemed to pulse with a life of its own, shifting ever so slightly under his touch. There was something almost alive about the way the symbols moved, like they were waiting for him to make the first move. "Focus," he muttered to himself, though his mind was swirling with doubt. How was he supposed to solve this? He had no training, no knowledge of alien languages or technologies. Yet, he couldn't ignore the pull he felt toward the key. It was as though his body instinctively knew what to do, even if his mind hadn't caught up yet. Minutes passed, then hours. The palace's glowing lights flickered overhead as Nathan continued to study the artifact, his hands growing sore from the constant movement. The symbols on the surface began to blur together, and frustration built up within him. He felt like he was staring into a vast, unknowable void, unable to find a way in. Just as his resolve began to falter, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You're close," Alira whispered from behind him, her voice barely audible in the silent room. Nathan turned, startled to see the young alien girl standing in the doorway, her expression a mix of curiosity and quiet encouragement. "What?" he began, his words trailing off. "Focus on the pattern," she said, stepping closer. "The key isn't just a puzzle. It's a map to something the Queen wants to hide. I think it's more than just an artifact. It's a way to understand what the Queen has been keeping from us." Her words hit Nathan like a lightning bolt. For a moment, everything fell into place. The symbols weren't random, they formed a sequence, a map of hidden paths in the galaxy. But what was it leading to? And why was the Queen so determined to keep it secret? Alira's eyes locked with his, her expression serious. "She's testing you, not just to see if you can solve the puzzle, but to see if you're worthy of knowing the truth." Nathan swallowed hard. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. What would he discover if he unlocked the key's secrets? And what would it mean for the relationship between humans and the alien Queen? As he returned his gaze to the symbols, he realized that solving this puzzle wasn't just about completing a task, it was about changing the course of history. The fate of the galaxy, of humans and aliens alike, rested in his hands. Nathan's hands trembled as he pressed down on the last symbol, the final piece of the puzzle falling into place. The Ilarian key responded with a soft hum, its surface glowing brighter than it ever had before. For a moment, Nathan felt the weight of history shift, as though the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The symbols rearranged, forming a clear image, a star system Nathan had never seen before, its planets aligned in a way that seemed deliberate, purposeful. It was as if someone had carefully chosen these worlds, each one marked with symbols of power and history. His heart raced. This wasn't just a map, it was a blueprint, a guide to something hidden in plain sight. Alira stood behind him, her eyes wide with awe. "You did it," she whispered, her voice reverberating with disbelief. "But what is it? What does it mean?" Nathan couldn't answer immediately. His mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragmented image before him. The map was clear, yet shrouded in mystery. He could see clusters of stars, distant and unknown, but one thing stood out above all the symbol that had appeared in the center of the map, a crescent moon with a jagged line running through it. It was a symbol Nathan recognized from the ancient texts of human history, one that had been lost to time. It represented something powerful, something older than the galactic empires. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. "This is it," Nathan murmured, his voice barely audible. "This is the location of the Meridian Custodians, the last of their kind." They were more than just archivists. They were the keepers of the true history of the galaxy, the ones who knew the galaxy's origins, its secret wars, and the alliances that were formed long before the empires we know today. Alira's eyes widened in shock. The custodians, but they were thought to be extinct. The Queen knows," Nathan interrupted, a cold realization settling over him. She's been hiding this. This map leads to their last resting place. But there's something more. The Queen, she's afraid. Afraid of what this truth could do to her reign. Alira stepped closer, her face a mask of concern. What are you going to do now? Nathan looked at her, his heart pounding. He had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was clear: this discovery couldn't be ignored. The Queen's empire was built on secrets, on controlling what the galaxy knew. But now, those secrets were coming to light. "I'm going to show the Queen," he said quietly, his voice steady with purpose. "She wants a test. Well, she's about to get one. The truth has a way of revealing itself, and there's no going back now." With that, Nathan stood up, the weight of the artifact still heavy in his hands. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with danger, but he couldn't turn back. Not when the fate of the galaxy was at stake. Nathan entered the Queen's chamber, the heavy doors sliding shut behind him with a quiet hiss. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. No, now he was something far more dangerous, a messenger of truth. The Queen was seated on her throne, her silhouette casting a long shadow across the room. Her carapace shimmered with the hues of 1,000 galaxies, her eyes burning with violet intensity as she regarded him. The room, once filled with the quiet hum of everyday life, felt tense and suffocating now. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. "You have the key," she said, her voice cold, like the edge of a blade. "What did you find?" Nathan stepped forward, the Alarian key still in his hands. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he placed it on the pedestal before her, the symbols glowing with an eerie light. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You unlocked it," she said, her voice now tinged with something darker, something dangerous. "Why? Why would you go so far?" Nathan met her gaze, his voice steady but filled with defiance. "Because you've been hiding the truth. You've kept the galaxy in the dark for too long, and now it's time for that to end." Her eyes flashed with a rage that sent a chill through him. The room seemed to grow colder, the very walls radiating an oppressive silence. "You don't understand the consequences of what you've done," she growled, rising from her throne. "That map leads to something far more dangerous than you realize." The Meridian custodians were not just historians, they were the keepers of power, ancient, forgotten power that could overthrow entire empires. Nathan swallowed hard but didn't back down. "You've been afraid of it, haven't you? Afraid of what it might mean if the truth were to come out." The Queen's hands clenched into fists. Her breath quickened, and for a brief moment, Nathan saw something that he never expected. Vulnerability, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by the unyielding authority she had maintained for centuries. "Do you think I fear the truth?" she spat, her voice rising. "I am the Queen of Threxion. I do not fear anything. But what you have uncovered threatens everything I've built." Everything. Nathan stood tall, his heart pounding, but his resolve unwavering. "The truth always threatens power," he said softly, his words sharp like a knife. "But it's the only thing worth fighting for." The Queen stepped toward him, her towering presence overwhelming. She loomed over him, and for a moment, Nathan felt the full weight of her authority. "You will regret this," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "I will make sure of it." Before Nathan could react, the chamber doors swung open. A pair of royal guards stepped inside, their eyes locked on him with an icy determination. The Queen raised her hand, signaling them to stop. "Leave him," she ordered, her voice cold and final. "This is between me and him." The guards hesitated, but only for a moment before they stepped back, their watchful eyes never leaving the scene. Nathan and the Queen were alone once more. The Queen's gaze softened slightly, though the anger still simmered beneath the surface. "You think you've won," she said quietly. "But you haven't. Not yet. This trial. It's far from over." Nathan looked at her, his eyes filled with defiance. "I don't need to win. I just need the truth to be heard." The Queen's expression hardened once more, and she turned away from him. "Then you will learn the price of it, Janitor. You will learn that truth is a far more dangerous weapon than any empire." And with that, she dismissed him, the doors closing behind him with a final, resounding thud. The days that followed were filled with tension and uncertainty. Nathan could feel the Queen's eyes on him at every turn, her cold presence looming like a shadow. Though he continued with his duties, it was no longer as simple as cleaning floors and scrubbing surfaces. His actions, his every move, felt like they were being scrutinized by the highest powers in the galaxy. But Nathan no longer cared about the consequences. The truth had been unleashed, and he wasn't going to let anyone silence it. The Queen had made her decision clear. He would face a trial, a test not just of his intellect but of his very loyalty. It was clear now that the Queen wasn't concerned about his ability to solve the puzzle of the Ilarian key. No, she wanted to test something deeper, whether Nathan could be controlled, whether he would kneel before the power of her empire, or whether he would stand against it. One afternoon, the call came. Nathan was summoned to the Grand Tribunal Chamber, a vast hall made of obsidian and shimmering light, where the galaxy's most powerful beings had once convened. The air was thick with tension as delegates from countless systems watched from their elevated thrones, their eyes locked on Nathan. This was not a simple trial, it was a spectacle, a display of power and dominance. The Queen sat at the highest seat, her gaze fixed on him as he was brought forward by her guards. Her face was unreadable, as always, but there was something different in the way she looked at him now. It was no longer just disdain, it was a mixture of curiosity and caution, as though she was waiting to see how far he would push her. "Welcome, Nathan Outman," the Queen's voice boomed across the chamber, carrying a weight of finality. "You stand before us not as a janitor, but as a messenger of truths that threaten everything we have built. You have unlocked secrets that should have remained buried. Now, you will prove your worth, or you will be silenced." Nathan's heart raced, but he held his ground. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he focused on the Queen, her unyielding authority, the power that seemed to emanate from her very being. He had always been invisible to her kind, nothing more than a worker, a cog in the machine. But now, he had a voice, and he would use it. "You've already made up your mind," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the weight of the room pressing in on him. "You'll do whatever it takes to maintain control, even if it means keeping the truth hidden. But you can't do that anymore. The truth is out there, and it's only a matter of time before it spreads." The Queen's expression didn't change, but her eyes gleamed with a dangerous intensity. "And so, you think you will change the galaxy with your words? You think your truth will stand against the might of my empire?" Nathan met her gaze, unwavering. "It's not just words, it's the reality you've been hiding from. It's the truth of who we really are, what we've become, and what we still have the potential to be. Your empire won't last if you keep suppressing the truth. You know that as well as I do." The chamber fell silent, and the Queen leaned forward, her eyes never leaving Nathan's. "Then let us see if you can live by the truth you claim to hold so dear. We will test your resolve, Janitor. We will see if your loyalty to it is stronger than your loyalty to me." Nathan's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood tall. He had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The Queen had made her move. Now it was his turn. The trial had begun. The trial began with a challenge, not of combat or physical endurance, but of intellect. A test that would challenge Nathan's deepest understanding of the universe, the history he had uncovered, and his own place within it. The Queen had given him the Ilarian key, but now it was clear that what lay before him was a far more dangerous puzzle. This was not about solving riddles, it was about understanding the consequences of the truth he had unlocked. The room fell into an eerie silence as the Queen's advisors presented the first part of the trial. A large, hollow orb descended from the ceiling, glowing with an ethereal light. Inside it swirled countless symbols and patterns, each one alien and cryptic. It was a map, but unlike the one Nathan had seen before. This one was alive, shifting, changing, evolving. "This is the heart of the ancient truth." The Queen's voice echoed through the chamber, her gaze never leaving Nathan. "This orb contains the knowledge of the custodians, the ones who came before us, the ones who knew the path to ultimate power." Nathan stepped forward cautiously, his heart racing. The orb pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, its symbols twisting in a way that felt both familiar and foreign. He could sense the weight of its meaning, the untold power it contained. But how to interpret it, how to decode what the custodians had left behind? You've already shown that you can decipher the map, the Queen continued, her tone cold. Now, let us see if you can unlock the full extent of the power you've awakened. Solve the puzzle, Nathan. Show us your worth. Nathan's mind raced as he examined the orb, trying to understand its patterns. The symbols swirled in front of him, but there was a method to their madness, a logic hidden beneath the chaos. It was like tracing an ancient language, one that had been forgotten by the galaxy for millennia. The more he focused, the more the symbols seemed to align with the faint traces of memory in his mind, as though the key was guiding him toward the solution. But as he reached out to touch the orb, a sharp voice interrupted him. "You're wasting your time." A Threxian delegate sneered from his seat. "Humans are not capable of such thought. They are nothing more than remnants of a broken species." The insult hit Nathan like a blow, but he did not falter. He had spent his life cleaning up after others living in the shadows of power. But now, in this moment, he knew that the truth was something he couldn't ignore. It wasn't just about proving his worth to the Queen or the galaxy, it was about something far greater. The custodians had known this, and so did he. The symbols shifted again, their rhythm matching his heartbeat. Nathan's fingers hovered above the orb's surface, feeling the pulse of its power. With a deep breath, he reached out and touched the first symbol. The orb flared with light, and the symbols began to rearrange themselves in a precise pattern. Time seemed to stretch and bend as Nathan worked through the puzzle, each move bringing him closer to unlocking the secrets hidden within the orb. The Queen watched him closely, her face unreadable, but her eyes never left him. Her empire was built on control, on suppressing the truth, but here, in this moment, Nathan was beginning to see the cracks in that facade. The orb's light intensified, and then, with a final flourish, the puzzle clicked into place. The symbols aligned, revealing a series of coordinates that led to the heart of the galaxy, to a place long forgotten by the ruling empires. The Queen's eyes narrowed, her expression darkening. "You've done it," she said, her voice a mix of admiration and anger. "But do you understand the cost of what you've uncovered?" Nathan stood tall, his breath coming in shallow bursts. "I understand that the truth cannot be hidden forever. The galaxy will know what you've been keeping from them." The Queen's lips curled into a thin smile, though it was devoid of warmth. "You have unlocked the path, Janitor. But now, you will have to walk it, and you will find that the truth is not as easily embraced as you think." As the orb's light dimmed, Nathan felt the weight of her words. The trial had only just begun. The real challenge lay ahead, one that would test everything he had come to understand about loyalty, power, and the cost of truth. The moment the orb's light faded, Nathan felt the heavy silence descend like a shroud over the chamber. He stood there, surrounded by the Queen and her advisors, the weight of their gazes pressing down on him. But he didn't flinch. The truth was now out there, and there was no turning back. The Queen's expression was unreadable, but the flicker of something, fear, perhaps, was unmistakable in her eyes. She had always held the reins of power, controlling what the galaxy knew and how it saw her. But now, she stood before Nathan, the truth of the Alarian key and the custodian's map laid bare for all to see. She could no longer hide from it. "You've unlocked the path," the Queen said, her voice low and calculating. "But you have no idea what you've unleashed. The power you've uncovered is not meant for humans. It's too dangerous." Nathan's pulse quickened, but he held his ground. "You're right," he said quietly. "It is dangerous. But that's exactly why it needs to be known. The galaxy can't keep living in the dark, under the illusion of your control." "Thus," the Queen's eyes narrowed, her regal composure wavering for the briefest of moments. "And what will you do with this truth? What do you think you can accomplish with it?" Nathan felt a shift in the air, as if the entire room were holding its breath. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes flicking between the Queen and Nathan. He knew what they were thinking. Humans were insignificant, unworthy of wielding power, much less the kind of ancient knowledge contained in the map. But Nathan didn't care about their opinions anymore. He had come too far to back down now. "I'll make sure the truth is heard," Nathan replied, his voice steady. "The custodians may have been forgotten, but they're not gone. The power they left behind, it's not for one person to control. It's for all of us. The Queen's lips curled into a thin smile, but it wasn't one of approval. It was a smile of disdain. You think you can change the galaxy with your words? You're just a janitor, Nathan Outman. Nothing more. Nathan met her gaze, unwavering. You underestimate me, he said quietly. And that's your mistake. For a moment, the Queen said nothing. The tension in the room was palpable, as if the entire galaxy were waiting for her next move. And then, with a sudden shift in her posture, she spoke again, her voice colder than ever. You may have solved my puzzle, she said, but you haven't won. Not yet. The truth you've uncovered will come at a price, and I will make sure that you pay it. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest, but he refused to show fear. He had known from the beginning that this wouldn't be easy. The Queen wasn't going to let him walk away unscathed, but the truth had been unlocked, and there was no going back. As he turned to leave the chamber, the Queen's voice echoed behind him, carrying the weight of a threat he couldn't ignore. Remember, Janitor, she called. The price of truth is often paid in blood.